Good evening, everyone. Great to see so many people here tonight. It's brilliant to see so many familiar faces and lots of new faces as well. So great to see you. My name, for those of you that don't know me, is Martin Kincaid, and I have the honour of being the Biodiversity Officer for the Parks Trust. I've worked here many years. I started out as a volunteer 20 years ago, almost to the day, in fact. So I've been around a long time, and now I'm the Biodiversity Officer, as I say. In the autumn, I go to lots of, the autumn is the conference season, and I go to conferences, Butterfly Conservation, the Mammal Society, RSPB, and people say, "You're a Biodiversity Officer in Milton Keynes? You've got wildlife in Milton Keynes?" It's always a pleasure to tell them just how rich and how biodiverse Milton Keynes is, and particularly the bits of it that we look after. So yeah, there's more than concrete cows for sure. I can only tell you a little bit in a few minutes, but I'll just tell you some of the highlights, some of the really exciting things going on in the parks for biodiversity. See if this is working. Good. I thought I'd start somewhere very nearby. Hopefully most of you will recognise this. This is the hill behind us, the meadow, the Belvedere Meadow in Campbell Park. This is a fantastically rich bit of grassland, believe it or not. We've in the years that we've taken a hay cut off here and grazed it with sheep, we've seen a tremendous variety of wildflowers coming through. In fact, about three weeks ago, myself and some colleagues were out there, and we did just a snapshot, just a very quick botanical survey, and we found 39 species of grass and wildflower there. Not bad for the centre of town, is it? Really, 39 species, and I'm sure we can improve on that. So really special, and it proves that this is just one of the many sites where we do conservation grazing, and it proves that it does work, even in an area right in the heart of Milton Keynes. Some people often forget that we don't just look after the larger areas of Linear Park and the woodlands and so on. We also look after a lot of landscape along the grid road. In fact, if you added up all of the grid road that we manage, it's about 200 kilometres, which is from here to Barnsley. So it's quite a big resource. It's a big resource for us, but potentially a very big resource for wildlife, for biodiversity. There are two images there. The picture on the left there is near Linford Wood. That's Danstead Way, the H4. And this is a wildflower meadow that's established nearly 20 years ago now. And is fantastically rich. It's mostly oxeye daisy you can see in there, and yellow rattle. It's really wonderful, and you know, the vision is to create more of that as we can. And the other image is of a kind of flagship species, really. Let's do another quiz. What's that, anybody? Bee orchid. Well done, everyone passed that. This is an interesting one. Every year in June, or most years in June, we get several members of the public. It's what I call orchid season. People ring us and say, "You've just mown all of the blinking orchids, all the bee orchids. Why do you do this every year?" One of the problems with orchids generally is that they move around. They can be very rich in one area of parkland one year, one area of grid road, and then they won't flower there again, they'll move on. But we have responded to this, we do listen. So we're actually leaving, this is the V6 Grafton Street, and we take the hay off much later. We cut that a lot later now. We cut it in sort of mid-late July, where we used to cut it in June. And I'm pleased to say I went out there with one of the ladies that brought this to my attention in June, and we had a look, and we counted over 400 bee orchids. So yeah, that's a good win. David mentioned that we're obviously in the business of adopting new areas of parkland, and I thought I'd give you a little sneak preview into a bit of land that's coming our way. Can't tell you how much I love this place. This is Oxley Mead, which is a site of special scientific interest over at Oxley Park. It's on the western boundary of Milton Keynes, Oxley Park near the North Bucks Way, and it's fantastically rich. It's a wet grassland, it's a wet meadow, and very diverse flora there. Lots of plants which are really quite rare in our part of the country. We are currently in the latter stages of adopting this land, hopefully. The solicitors are working on this very hard for us at the moment. It's been in the pipeline for a long while, but we're looking forward to taking it on. I must stress that it's not ours yet, but we have good plans for this. Most of our parkland, most of the land that the Parks Trust owns, is of course fully open to the public. You know, 365 days a year. Sometimes we have to take the decision not to do that. There are probably 2 or 3 bits of land that we own that are so sensitive environmentally that we don't allow people in there. We wouldn't want people walking their dogs through there, we wouldn't want people accidentally or otherwise starting fires and so on. So we will have very limited, very managed access to Oxley Mead, to this meadow, because it's so special and so fragile. But we will have the occasional wildflower walk and open day there. And the really special thing about this as well, apart from the plants themselves, is that it's been subject to 20 years of environmental monitoring by the Open University, and we're obviously looking forward to carrying on that so that we can do even more monitoring and find out more about the species there. So from flowers to insects, where have all the butterflies gone, Martin? Where have all the butterflies gone? If I had a penny for every time somebody asked me that question in recent years, but not so much this summer, not quite so much. But yeah, where have all the butterflies gone? Where have all the bumblebees gone? Dragonflies, insects generally. I'm pleased to say that by and large, butterflies are thriving across our estate. They're doing very, very well. I'm sure anyone that's turned on a TV set or read a newspaper in the past 5 years has heard about the declines of pollinating insects, bumblebees, calamitous declines in bumblebees, butterflies. We have 5 butterfly transects, so this is a long-term monitoring program in 5 of our parks. I do a bit of that, but I couldn't do it without volunteers. We have a great team of volunteers who do this for us, and it's great to see them develop their knowledge and their skill set. And we're only halfway through the season for butterflies, but I can tell you already that the numbers we're getting this year are smashing the last few years. They really are much, much higher. And I've just picked out 2 butterflies here, 2 nationally rare species. The one on the left there is a dowdy little thing, which we go hunting for every year. And I've actually seen some this year, so it must be good. This is the black hair streak, which is very, very rare butterfly indeed. It's only found in a few sites between Oxford and Peterborough. But it's found at Howe Park Wood, and it's also found, I've managed to find it at Oxley Mead, which was the last picture. And we've actually seen a few of these on the transit routes this year, so it's had probably its best year. I think it's something to do with the weather. And the other butterfly, the big purple thing there, is a purple emperor. This is a butterfly which the Victorians used to spend days travelling to see. A magnificent 10-centimetre wingspan insect. We found it in Shenley Wood 3 or 4 years ago, and we've now found it in Howe Park Wood and Kingsmead Spinney, and I'm sure someone will find it in lots. It's expanding its range very well. We're seeing this in our woodlands. Isn't that exciting? Yeah. Good. But we're seeing similar trends. We're seeing similar things this year with moths, with bumblebees, with dragonflies. I think, to be honest with you, this hot summer has come just in time for some of these things to recover. Right. And birds are having a good year as well. Many birds are having a good year. The fact that there's a lot of insects might be part of that. These are common terns. This is one of our wetland bird species, and both these photographs were taken at our nature reserve at Stony Stratford, for those of you that know it. What we have to do at Stony Stratford, we have a couple of islands which we manage principally for birds, for nesting birds, and every few years we get our volunteers and some staff go out there, and we basically import 20 tonnes or more of shingle and pebbles, because over time we lose that habitat. So we're doing that very soon. We take stone over. I was over there about a month ago, and we just pop over, see if there are any nests, and then we get off again. So those eggs, I'm happy to tell you, are now quite big, bouncy, fluffy common tern chicks. There are at least 7 or 8 nests there, and the picture on the right was also taken on the same island. That's the adult tern. They're also breeding at Willen Lake, and I think Thurston Lake this year. So that's quite exciting. And here's two other birds. Now these are birds that you probably know better by their call than by seeing them, possibly. So yeah, and these are pictures of fledglings. So we've got a cuckoo there on the left, hopefully on the left, and on the right a tawny owl chick. There's a very recent picture of a tawny owl chick in I think in Howe Park. So these are both birds which have been subject to declines. The cuckoo has declined by about 65% since 1980. How many people have not heard of cuckoo this year? I'm sure quite a few. But the good news is the good news is they have had their best year in Milton Keynes, certainly for about a decade, we think. We've had more of them calling across a wider landscape than usual. They certainly breed at our floodplain forest nature reserve, and they breed at Linford Lakes, and we've heard them at Widdon Lake this year as well. So it's just a blip. The long-term trend is very negative for these birds, but the good news is we have lots of lakes, we have lots of wetlands, lots of reed beds. They lay their eggs in the nests of reed warblers in our part of Britain, so the habitat is there if everything else is in place. So that's just a few, very few highlights I've picked out there. Some of the things that we monitor with the help of volunteers across Milton Keynes. At the beginning of this year, we published the second version of our Biodiversity Action Plan. So this is a publication which basically explains how wildlife conservation is an integral part of what the Trust does across all areas of our work. So it talks about how we engage people with wildlife through our education programme, through our events, through volunteering, all areas of our work. What we do in there is we identify what are our key priorities really. What are our priority habitats? So we talked about ancient woodland and rivers tonight. What are our key species or groups of species as well? And then we set targets on how we can measure if we're doing a good job or not. So that's what that's all about. So if you haven't seen that, you can find that on our website together with another publication, Our Commitment to Biodiversity. That's really all I have to say. I don't think I've done anything wrong with the clicker, have I, Sarah? No, it all seemed to go okay. Except to say that this is, as with everything in the parks, the birds, the wildflowers, everything is there not just for me, but for everyone to enjoy. And we get a lot of support from volunteers and from members of the public. We always include lots of wildlife activities in our events programme, so we have bat walks and bird walks. And there are ways that you can get involved. So if you have an interest in wildlife and if you want to help out with volunteering, from time to time we have volunteers help us with bat surveys and butterfly surveys and all kinds of other things as well. So if you'd like to get involved in any way, shape or form, or if you'd just like to know a little bit more about our work for wildlife, then please come and talk to me later on. Thanks very much for listening, and enjoy the rest of the evening.